Welcome to Talk with CK, your cozy corner for heartfelt conversation. My name is CK, and in this space, we will explore the beautiful, messy, and inspiring journey of growing up. Each week, I sit down with someone special as we share stories about the struggles that shaped us, the lesson that changed us, and the small moments of pride that made us who we are today. And I want to start with a very special quote that I really like this quote, which is, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page," by St. Augustine, who is a very well-traveled monk in the Middle Age. And no one is as well-traveled as my guest today. Please welcome Mr. Nick. Hi, Nick.
Hey, how we doing, CK?
Hi, Nick. Welcome to my podcast, and thank you for talking with me.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, Nick and I also are, just like Alice, Nick and I are also classmates. Hi, classmate. How are you today? Are you still doing homework? Have you done your homework?
No. After Thai class, I take several hours break. I'm just chilling. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Chill with me. This is good because both of us, I know like today's class is really intense, so it's good time for us to just chill. I wish I can offer you a beer, but we'll go out someday.
Got my coffee here, so we're good.
Cool. So, Nick, you are from West Virginia. Tell us about what it's like growing up in that part of the world.
Yeah, so I'm from West Virginia. I'm from the part of West Virginia is actually, yeah, I'm sure anybody in the United States who talks about their state says this, but it's actually like 5 separate states in terms of the different geographic regions. So you have the Appalachian Mountains going down straight through the middle. And so essentially you could be on the eastern part of the state and you're on the other side of the mountains from the western part of the state. So there are different kind of cultural regions, different economic regions. The part of the state that is most often sort of seen in popular culture is in the southern coal fields. So this was the southern part of the state that is historically more isolated, but over the course of the 19th and 20th centuries got penetrated by railroads and developed coal fields, that kind of thing. So I'm actually from the part of West Virginia. It's on the western side. It's along the Ohio River. And so it's right next to Ohio. My mother is from Ohio. My father's from West Virginia. It had elements, I guess, of what people associate with West Virginia. It has elements that people don't associate with West Virginia in terms of, I didn't live in the middle of, the rural country kind of out of nowhere. I lived in a city. I went to, all right schools. But there were definitely elements of sort of West Virginia living. There was a lot of, obviously, the opioid overdose epidemic that got all of these sort of headlines throughout the 2000s and 2010s. I was very much a factor in my life. I know people who died from drug overdoses. Was raised by kind of a single mom in economically precarious kind of circumstance. I would describe us as kind of lower middle class. And yeah, it was a great place. To be honest, it was a great place to grow up. A very supportive community. I was very engaged with the church and sort of Christianity growing up. I'm much less so now, but it really provided a nice structure. And then even though there were sort of obstacles and difficulties, I would say I had a pretty good childhood, and it sort of set me up for the success I don't know if you term it success, my life trajectory, I guess, which was very nice.
Fun fact about West Virginia, famous people from West Virginia, Jennifer Gardner.
She loves it. She loves it. She's so into it. I love it. She's the queen of West Virginia.
Really?
Ask any West Virginians. Yeah.
She married Ben Affleck.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was very supportive of Ben when things went down south.
Yeah. So when they broke up, it was a bit like this is a big deal for my family because it's like we love Jen because she's from West Virginia and she's so into it, and then we liked Ben because he was married to her. Yeah, no, it was a thing.
Steve Harvey, true West Virginian.
Yeah. Yeah, he's from the southern coal fields where So there's actually a very large historically African American population that went down there to work in the coal fields, and so yeah, he's from that as well.
Well, the first time I ever heard of West Virginia was I was watching a documentary about Mrs. Kennedy, and when she campaigned there, she took off her shoe. And West Virginians just fell in love with her.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's a very community that it's very traditional, that a very tight-knit community, I would say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I would say that, yeah.
So you live in West Virginia until how long, Nick?
So I lived in West Virginia until I was 18. And then I moved to Ohio, which is right across the river. really to go to school at Ohio University. So that's an area that we call Appalachian Ohio. Ohio similarly divided into a bunch of regions. The part of Ohio that I kind of my mother's from and everything is much more like West Virginia than it is like some parts of Ohio that other people may know. Went there for 4 years, and then I moved to Washington D.C. to work and live. And there were stints in there where I was living in Jordan, where I was living in Morocco, doing all sorts of different stuff. But yeah, that's kind of. And then I was in D.C. right up until a couple months ago when I moved from D.C. to Bangkok. So that's
Right.
kind of it.
As I know, you are a scholar of the Middle East.
Mhm.
Did you started school in DC to study about the region? How did that happen?
So yeah, so it's really it was a function of growing up when I did in the 2000s. This is immediately post 9/11. This was kind of invasion of Iraq, war on terror. So it was really kind of it was something I was always fascinated by, right? I was the kid walking around, middle school with what is Islam kind of book and sort of reading it, so to give you some background, so the part of West Virginia that I'm from, it's incredibly Christian, very Protestant.
That's why I wonder why you would like this is a very foreign
Yeah, so
object in culture for
there was
you.
an element of exoticism to it, and sort of like, oh, like this is the other, and I was very interested in the other, and so I was very academically inclined from a very early age. And so this was all sort of going on. And so I actually started my first class in undergraduate university was at Ohio University was an Arabic language class, which funny. So I wanted to learn Persian, but they didn't offer Persian. And I'm like, oh, I can learn Arabic and it's the same, right? But it's actually Persian is more closely related as a language to German than it is to Arabic. They're actually completely
Mm.
different language families, even though they use kind of the same alphabet. So that was kind of a funny sort of thing. But so I took Arabic. And then, yeah, from there, I studied abroad in Jordan in undergrad and in Morocco. And then I did my master's in Arab studies at Georgetown University in DC, which is actually where, yeah, go
Take
ahead.
me back to the first day you arrived in Amman, right? In
Yeah,
Jordan. The
yeah, yeah,
first
yeah,
day
yeah.
you arrived, was it anything you imagined it would
Yeah,
be?
I mean,
I've
so
never been to the Middle East, so
it was really, it was really my first time leaving home. So, because I commuted from my house to my university for the first year and a half of my undergraduate degree. So it was really the first time that I was living someplace besides my house. So it was like this extra element of like, oh, you're leaving home, you're going to this completely different situation. I mean, really, the thing I noticed, and it's really what I notice everywhere, is you notice the trees are different. And so, like, you're looking around, you're often flying into one of these cities, whether it's Bangkok or Amman, probably sort of at 11 p.m. at night. You're frazzled. It's been a 20-hour flight or whatever, and you're getting in a car and you're just seeing all the lights and the different sort of landscape. So it was very exotic. I love Amman. I stayed with a Palestinian Jordanian host family for my 3 or 4 months there, and they really made it feel at home. And
that's nice.
yeah, it's
But what
beautiful.
did you have to learn very quickly about the custom there? It must be very different from West Virginia because of, for instance, religion wise and sensitivities on the custom. What did you have to learn like really fast? That
Yeah,
you
I mean,
can't do
so
this.
I guess in terms of personal conduct, as a someone who was a fundamentalist Christian at some point, it actually wasn't all that different. And to be honest, it was in many ways, in some ways, actually looser than I was sort of used to. So I went
Not as
into.
strict as you
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah. I went to Amman imagining, oh, it's this Islamic country that it's going to have all of these rules and it's going to be very different. And so, like, I remember one of my the family that I stayed with, they were Muslim, but they were kind of secular Muslim, and so like in the sense of like, I woke up one day and I found an empty bottle of vodka in the sink, and I'm like, wow, okay, this isn't the Middle East that I was sort of expecting, I guess. And so they were actually old, I mean, communists. When you get, I mean, looking at their family history, if you look at the history of the Arab world, we think of it as Islam or Muslim or super religious, but it has this very rich political tradition of a bunch of different sort of political traditions, including socialism, communism. And so they were in their 70s at the time that I was living with them, and they were just kind of old communists who had lived throughout the Arab world, worked a bunch of different places. And so it really kind of broke the stereotype, I guess, of sort of what I was looking at, and be like, oh, this is a real place with real people, and it's just as multifaceted and complicated and nuanced as anywhere I come from or anybody comes from. So that was really kind of my introduction, I guess, to this is going to be a different kind of space than I was maybe thinking it was going to be.
Tell me about the attitude that you have towards, like, for instance, I live in Malaysia. It's a
Mhm.
predominantly Muslim country, but there are still things that I wish that, doesn't take place. For example, I wish I wasn't woken up
Mhm.
by the prayer sound. How do you think? Do you fully embrace it at first? Would you take a little bit of time to say, "Hey, this is
Yeah,
how would you deal with it?"
I mean, so when I first got to a place like I'm on, really it's the first several weeks is like, wow, this is so cool, this is so different and everything, and then you settle in the culture shock and are like, okay, I'm sick and tired of everything, and I just want to stay in my room for like a week. I'm even doing that in Bangkok to a certain extent. That's
Mm,
just how acclimating to a new culture is, I think, for a lot of people as you get overstimulated. And then,
overstimulated, yeah.
yeah, but so I think you go through, or at least I went through sort of like this is the greatest society ever, or this is so much better than the United States, because this my entire life I was told that this was an inferior place, this was an Orientalist place that was very different, and then I wanted to kind of reclaim it. And then over time, I lived in Jordan, in various locations in Jordan for about a year across various different times, working, going to school, that kind of thing. Really, it's kind of just accepting it as a real place
Mm,
with all of its imperfections and all of its beauty and all of the different kinds of people. Some people in some places are assholes. Some people in some places are really nice. And so
mm,
just kind of accepting that it's just as human as anywhere
mm.
else, and kind of living in the moment where you're at.
Tell us the don'ts, Nick. Like, what are like some of the things you should not do for people heading to that part of the
Oh, I
world?
mean, so yeah, so like that in certain among certain company, right? Gender mixing is less of a thing than it is perhaps in the West or in other countries. It's not necessarily going to get you in trouble, but it's not necessarily something that everybody does. Although people still, I mean, Jordanians and other people in the Middle East still do it. It's not like they're constitutionally unable to do it, but it's a different culture. Sort of openly drinking or openly, although there were still liquor stores or alcohol stores sort of on the blocks at times, sort of public drunkenness, or like sort of openly smoking, various narcotics, like weed, is something that you don't do. But yeah, it's just generally show people respect, be circumspect in sort of how you address people, and don't be too, I guess, forward. And really, I mean, that got me through a lot.
Mm.
If you're looking for, specific cultural aspects, don't point your feet at people, don't show your back to old people. Really, it's just a matter of being a respectful person, I think, and just kind of comporting yourself with that with dignity. And I think you'll be all right if you're traveling there.
Sure. I don't think it's that much different from the other countries
Hmm.
whereby I always tell people, if you don't know, ask.
Yeah,
Ask the local, is this allowed? They will
yeah,
tell
yeah,
you
yeah.
rather than assume that this is not allowed. This is allowed.
Hmm.
Things might surprise you. So I always advise people who are traveling, if you're not sure, just ask, is that correct? Is that allowed? Is that not allowed? What should I do in these
Hmm.
circumstances? Just ask. So how long did you live in Jordan?
So yeah, I lived in Jordan for about a year. I did.
Mm,
I did the first time I ever left home was to spend a semester in Jordan, and then I later went back in 2016 to do field work. So I did my master's thesis on essentially how NGOs provide welfare
mm,
in a community in Jordan, and that was very different from. So that was outside of Amman. That was in a small city called Madaba, which is
mm,
outside of Amman, and it was very kind of a different vibe than the big city, which I really enjoyed. And then I went back right after I graduated from my master's to go work at an NGO in Amman for about half a year. So yeah, so it's a wonderful country. You're going to find a lot of different kinds of people there. Some of them will maybe be more conservative than you. Others will be probably more liberal, and kind of like antagonistically liberal, because they have to deal with people they can see as more conservative than some people. And so yeah, so it's just a matter about finding your people, and yeah, finding a way to live your life.
we're learning a new language. This is my Thai will be my number 8
Mashallah,
language, Nick.
mashallah, as they
Oh my
say
God.
in Arabic. That's
How
great.
easy or how difficult it is to learn Arabic, Nick.
It's incredibly difficult, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah, no, so I mean, at least, so it depends on what language you're coming from, right? For English speakers, according to the United States government, it's considered like up there with Chinese in terms of difficulty for people. Now, someone coming from Malaysia or someone coming from China, maybe presents different difficulties or a different difficulty
That's
level.
right. That's right. And for
But
you, it was very difficult.
yeah. So so I took Arabic pretty consistently for about 6 years, and I mean, it went on multiple intensive. So the historical context of the war on terror and all of that is very important to my story, because really I was one of many people that sort of was structurally pushed towards studying the Middle East by the United States government providing all of this money to study Arabic. So they were
I see.
providing so many scholarships to go study abroad in Jordan, or I'd study abroad in Morocco, and like go study there, 4 hours a day, do nothing but for 4 hours a day over the course of the summer, study Arabic, and then go immerse yourself in the culture and everything. So the history of U.S. sort of involvement in the Middle East and the U.S. government's involvement in the Middle East is important to understanding my own personal life trajectory. So it did it very intensively for 6 years, and that was almost 10 years ago now. I can still understand it, I can still speak it mostly, can still read it, but like it's a very hard language, and if you don't use it, you lose it. And so I know a lot of people who really can't speak it anymore because they haven't used it in a while, and it's one of those really difficult languages that you need to be using it all the time to
I
learn
have
it.
two questions from what you just said. The first question, I want to stick to that language first. Is
Mhm.
there, for people who wanting to learn Arabic at this point, or even a new language, everybody has their own shortcut. And
Mhm.
I found mine too when learning German and now Thai. What is your shortcut, you think, or the best advice you give to people who are
Yeah, I
learning a new
mean,
language or in Arabic?
so I guess my shortcut is to recognize there ain't no shortcut. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
it's
ultimate.
true.
You ultimately just kind of have to put the time in.
It's so true.
And
You
so
put
like it,
6 years.
yeah. So in terms of organizing, being able to organize your thoughts and your learning in a way that, for me, it's very important, for instance, that I can compartmentalize verbs versus nouns versus adverbs, so I can go back and review all of them very quickly. So yeah, so
I would say not passive learning. Like I was passive
oh yeah.
learning thing. You have to interact. Like we interact, we talked, we
Mhm.
practice, we exercise,
That's
make
the
exercise.
that's the other thing, which is language, in my opinion, is not something that you can learn on your own. Language
No,
when you get down to it, is a social technology.
it's a group thing. It's a
Yes,
group thing.
it's almost like pack behavior. Like
Mm.
for dogs communicating and everything and learning and everything, you almost have to be in a group engaged for you to be able to encode the memories that you need to be able to encode to be able to speak the language in real life. So I did Duolingo for Swahili for like 5 years, and I never spoke Swahili to anybody, didn't go to any, but I did it for five
Wow.
years. I know some words from Swahili, but I even just like a month of studying Thai, I can already say, yeah, I'm much better at Thai than I ever will be at Swahili, because it's something that I've engaged with people as opposed to like a computer or a book.
Well, I certainly want to practice Thai with you, and if you find time, any time that you want to practice with me, you're very welcome. I want to
Oh,
make a
thank you.
segue to my second question from what you just mentioned about, and you mentioned that the funding you've got was from the United States government for you to go study.
Mhm.
Looking back, is there something suspicious about this, Nick?
Not so. I mean, in the sense that it's U.S. empire, yeah. But like in the sense, so this there weren't like any strings attached. It wasn't like, oh yeah, you have to report back to it. There are perhaps some programs where that may be the case, but for anything that I did, it was mostly just like, oh yeah, here's the kinds of here's money, here's the kinds of programs you can go to a program and learn Arabic, because the U.S. government was trying to build expertise in Middle East studies and Arabic and everything, so that at some point, if they needed people, they could recruit them or get people into jobs to sort of do that. In terms of its effects, ultimately, I think a lot of it was actually kind of against what the U.S. government was wanting to do. They put all this money into area studies as a result of 9/11, sent a bunch of people to the Middle East. And what I think what resulted from that was a bunch of the people that they sent kind of saw reality for what it is and kind of became more sympathetic perhaps to critiques of US power and the US government. So whereas before, it was US support for Israel was largely unquestioned in the United States. Support for US policies in Iraq or Afghanistan or one of these places, it was contentious, but I think there was a lot of support for it. And then they sent an entire generation of people like myself to the Middle East, where we got to meet like actual people in the Middle East and talk to them and sort of see their perspective, learn the language and be able to interpret it ourselves. And so I think that has kind of actually contributed to a better discourse on the Middle East in the United States than perhaps the US government was hoping. And I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing the US government kind of cracking down on the study of foreign, just since the Trump administration came into office, and even before that, as a result of the protests in 2023, 2024, you saw the US government really kind of cracking down on Middle East studies departments in particular as a result.
Really? I didn't know that. They're cracking down.
Yes,
And reason?
they see these institutions as kind of centers of protest and agitation for Palestine, and so they very much kind of want to crack down and control these spaces with people who know what the Middle East actually is, rather than this kind of stereotype or kind of boogeyman that the U.S. government is interested in presenting a lot of the time.
So let me understand, what year did you move to Jordan? What year did that started?
I moved there in 2013, which was
2013. Okay, so well after Bush Jr.'s second Iraq war, right?
So
and well, I have two favorite subjects in the world. One, is food, which I had a YouTube channel, and second is geopolitics, which I am wanting to get your insight on this, because the Middle East, of course, it's blessed with the black gold. That's really still one of the most sought after commodity resources. And that's why I think America is paying so much attention to it, of course. And that's what the region stand for. The oil that the world needed, especially China, because China doesn't have any oil, and as much as they want to go towards clean energy, it's still a very dependent, people are still very dependent on oil. We are very addicted to it. So tell us a little bit of insight of what you think what's happening right now, and should we care? Some people said this is going to blow up and this is going to get worse. What are your insights or projection into what's going on right now?
It's been getting worse for the last 2 years, right? So ever since the October 7th attacks by Hamas and then Israel's sort of response, we've seen, besides the humanitarian catastrophe, some say genocide in Gaza, which I think people need to care about just as a kind of humanitarian concern. And we've seen multiple exchanges between the U.S. and Israel in various groups throughout the Middle East, including in Yemen, which the Houthis Houthi movement in Yemen, which is an Iran-backed group, were attacking shipping, sort of passing through the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb. And then, yes, sort of alternatively, currently, since the U.S. strikes on Iran, there's this concern of, is Iran going to close the Strait of Hormuz, which both of these waterways are incredibly important to the worldwide trade, and in particular, the Strait of Hormuz is very important for the movement of oil and gas from the eastern Arabian Peninsula, where this is where all of the oil fields are, out into the wider ocean to places like India and China and even Thailand. It's port of Sriracha. It gets a lot of fuel. So I do think it's important. It's incredibly important for people to follow and understand. Just because, this is a large-scale regional war that we've been seeing take place for 2 years. And there's estimates in Gaza, something like 350 to 400,000 people are already dead. Is the U.S. and Israel going to try to invade Iran? Is that going to have ripple effects on all of these trade routes and other such things?
And what do you think, Nick, of all that's going to happen,
so currently,
and the leadership on each of these countries, what do you think is going to happen?
So I think, in terms of a big blowout where Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, I don't think that's going to necessarily happen in the near term.
I don't think so either.
I do think we are going to see a continuation of what we've been seeing for the last year and a half, where Israel and the United States in particular are sort of really bombing whoever they want to bomb to sort of get their way, and continue doing what they're doing in Gaza.
Okay, specifically, I'm going to ask you this. Do you think the regime in Iran is going to be stable, stand firm? They're not going to collapse, you think?
I think I don't
Okay.
think they're going to collapse. I don't think they're going to be in any. I don't think they're going to be in a good position.
Mm,
But I think if you look at sort of,
weaker.
yeah, they're going to be weaker. But I think the
Mm,
structure of the regime
will hold.
will hold. They're
Mm.
already rounding up hundreds of people on accusations of spying for Israel, and they're probably going to execute several of them. So it's not like Iran's doing great things either. But I do think the regime will.
There's no winner in this, but do you think Israel is a winner in
I
what this
mean,
rolls out,
I mean,
plays
in the
out?
sense that they're continuing to be able to do whatever they want, perhaps. I think long term they're going to pay a significant price. If you look at their worldwide sort of reputation, it's just really been destroyed over the course of the last 2 years. And I think that whereas before, in the Israel and the Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they were kind of on the same page when it came to Iran. They wanted to contain Iran. And then over the last several years, the Gulf states have gotten a little bit more. They've changed they've changed their minds because
They changed their mind.
They tried to contain Iran in Yemen. Saudi Arabia launched a decade-long war that it's still engaged with technically in Yemen, and it kind of got its nose punched in. And so the UAE, similarly, the Houthis launched missiles at Dubai several years ago, and I think the UAE realized, okay, we're pretty vulnerable here. Let's try to cut a deal. And so what you saw in 2023 was China brokered this kind of rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And since then, you've seen the Gulf states maybe be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't try to. I mean, they don't like Iran. It's not like they're best friends with Iran right now, but they're like, let's maybe try to cut a deal rather than militarily resolve this. And Israel's just not on that point.
And do you think with this happening, Iran will accelerate their nuclear plan?
That's anybody's guess, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely will make them much more reticent to give up the program or anything like that. Whereas before they thought they could maybe get a deal. Now, if they don't have some kind of deterrent, either in the form of their groups that they back throughout the Middle East, like the Houthis and Hezbollah, or their nuclear program, then you could have Israel just come in and decide to kill 700 people in a wave of airstrikes. So I think, but what I think is going to happen long term for Israel is the Gulf states are looking at this and being like, what the hell? Israel's just bombing whoever. They're going wherever they want. They're going into Lebanon. They're going into Syria. They're going into Yemen. They're going into Iran. They're going into Iraq. So I think the Gulf states are like, I don't think that anybody should be able to do this. So I think they're getting a little leery. And I think that long term.
Last question, Nick, on this, because this is a very complex.
Of course.
This is a very complex subject.
Of course.
Last question is, do you think I'm right if I say the big winner is Russia and China? Because Iran will need Russia and China even more to get stuff if,
So yeah, I think big winners, yes, are Russia and China. So Russia, we've seen Russia and China extend their kind of influence into places like Yemen where they weren't necessarily as influential before. I think big winners are countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE who have decided to stay out of it and kind of present themselves as brokers and kind of be like, okay, maybe we can like sort of negotiate a peace or something like that. So yeah, I think anybody engaged in the war itself, I consider various forms of loser.
Yeah.
They've all been hit. They've all been bruised.
Because
to varying
I think
degrees.
ultimately nobody has any objective in ending this. And maybe the objective is to stop Iran having nuclear war, but is that working? And you said that it's anybody's guess, so it's not a
well, yeah. So I mean, ultimately, I do think it's important to tie it all back to Gaza. I mean, in terms of the last 2 years.
Okay.
I think after the attacks from Hamas on October 7th and the war crimes and everything, Israel wanted essentially revenge, and that has developed into varying levels of genocide. And so you saw the Iran-backed groups like the Houthis kind of intervene and say, okay, we want to stop this. There have been people who question whether or not they're serious about, they actually want to do this rather than just attack Israel. But in the one instance where we saw a ceasefire sort of hold in early 2025, they stopped. Right. So I do think it is important. There's a whole lot of other geopolitical stuff going on. It's not just about Israel-Palestine, but I do think that it's important to always sort of bring it back to that, because if you can resolve the issue in Gaza, if you could stop that, I think a lot of the other stuff in the region, at least in the short to midterm, will stop.
Thank you for that insight. What I feel is like it's just snowball, and the leaders are not. No one is taking accountability of what's happening on the people on the ground on all sides of the countries. There are no winners on all sides. So it's a mess. So
Mhm.
I want to talk about something more optimistic
Yeah, sure, sure,
about
sure, sure.
Nick moving to, you're living in an area called Rangsit in Bangkok. So
Mhm.
why did you move to Thailand?
That is intimately tied to my study of the Middle East.
Really?
Yeah, so I did my master's in at Georgetown University in Arab Studies between 2015 and 2017. And in my second year, the sort of the cohort that was after me, there was a nice Thai scholar girl who came all the way from Thailand to study Middle East studies in the United States, so that she
Cool.
could eventually become a professor at a university in Thailand and teach Middle East history. And so that is my fiance, who I'm currently with now.
You
So
met her where? Sorry, did you met her
I met her in Washington
in
D.C.
Washington
back in
D.C.?
16. We started dating. She went back to Thailand, and then she came back for her PhD in Middle East studies, in Middle East history at Georgetown. And so yeah, we started dating in 2019, and then COVID happened, and we moved in together, and so we were living together in DC
In
for
D.C. Okay.
yeah, for about 5 years. We traveled the world for her dissertation. We went to England. We went to various parts of the United States. We went to Lebanon, went to Thailand. And so, yeah, so eventually it came time for her to, finish her PhD and come back to Thailand and teach as a professor. And I ultimately had to make the decision of, okay, am I going to stay in DC, where, I'd been working a job for about 7 years. It's a comfortable existence, I suppose. Or am I going to go to Thailand with this woman that I love? And so ultimately, I chose the latter. So I moved to Rangsit, which is the city that is home to the main campus of Thammasat University. It's one of the major universities in Thailand. And so my partner is going to be a Middle East history teacher there, and I'm here.
How is it living in Thailand? You are there how long already?
I've been here about a month and a
A
half.
month and a half. But
Yeah,
mostly
yeah,
same with
yeah.
Alice. So
Yeah.
how is it living in this? This is the first time living in Southeast Asia, right? I
This is
presume.
the second. So I lived in Thailand. I lived in central Bangkok back in 2022 for about a year, for about a month. So I had some sort of sense of what was
Yeah,
going to
1
happen.
month. Where did you live at that 1 month?
Ramrudi, I think it's near Sukhumvit. It was near Lumpini Park and near the
Okay.
US Embassy.
So you had like 1 month and then
Yeah,
now
yeah.
you
And then
okay.
now I'm here for the foreseeable. I'm liking it so far. I've gotten. I mean, obviously, you can't anywhere you go to live for any period of time, you're going to get sick for the first couple weeks, and then you got to get over it, and then you
Well, you
sort
have
of
a
stable.
local Thai partner. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
should have made things very
Yes.
easy for you. Like she handles,
Yeah,
when
yeah, yeah.
repairmen come and she can handle
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
stuff.
It's definitely been much easier, and great, and I love her for all that she does for me. I do want to put that in.
Side note, is she from Bangkok or is she from other provinces?
She's actually from the province that I'm in, Pathum Thani, but which is part of the Bangkok metropolitan
Okay.
area.
They say central
Yeah,
Thailand.
central. Yeah, her family's sort of a long history of bureaucrats and involvement in the Thai government and military.
Have you seen much of Thailand outside of Bangkok?
I went and saw Phuket. We've been to
Oh yeah,
Pattaya.
you went to Phuket. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going. We're actually going down to Chonburi for Muding's birthday here in a couple weeks. So
Mudeng's birthday?
yeah, I'm at Kalkyo Zoo down in Chonburi. There's
The hippo, you mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. She has a
Wow, I didn't know you were a fan.
No. So my partner's really. It was. I think it was a source of comfort for her as she was in the rigors of finishing her PhD, which is a very grueling process. I don't recommend it to
sure.
anybody. Mudang sort of became very popular in the last year, so I think she really liked it because it's like, oh, this is Thai. This is so cute. This is so cool. So
So
my
for those
partner's
who
really
don't
doing it,
know,
yeah.
Mudeng is a hippo that has went viral when she was born. She or he?
Mhm. She.
She was born, and she's been a sensation around the world. If you
Yeah,
haven't
yeah, yeah,
noticed,
yeah.
she's a internet sensation, social media viral. She's a hippo that lives in, you said Chonburi, right? The
Yeah,
zoo.
yeah, Chengua. Yeah, and Kalkyo opens.
Cool. Any plans to expand your family? You think? Are
I mean,
you
well, we'll see.
because you
We'll see.
want to be there permanently?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, only it's something that we've talked about, and
Hmm.
we'll see with regards to that. I think for the next couple of years at least, it's really going to be settling into what does it mean to live in Thailand? What does it mean to try to make a living here for me and for my partner? What does it mean for her to be a professor and a doctor? And like, what one of the sort of, based on her position, one of the foremost authorities on Middle East history in Thailand, and sort of seeing what that sort of looks like.
I
But
can
yeah, we'll
imagine
see.
her position. Is she advising the Thai government or something?
No, but like, in terms of,
Like
I mean, Ta-
studies
Ta- I
one.
mean, Ta- I mean, term Thammasat's it's one of the top universities in
Top
Thailand,
university, exactly.
especially for political science.
Correct.
There aren't that many Middle East sort of historians or Middle East history teachers in Thailand. So when you
Mm.
think about the people that are going to be going through her classroom, and the kinds of people, the kinds of things they're going to go on to do in the Thai government, in the Thai foreign ministry and stuff, it's like she's going to be an influential person. She says no, but I keep telling her, like, structurally, I'm very interested to see what she's able to do.
On a curious note,
Yeah.
what is the dynamics between Thailand and the countries in the Middle East?
So it's a very interesting story.
Tell
In
me.
particular, so a lot of Thais go to work in the Middle East. Obviously, in the
True.
Gulf, there's a lot of Thai workers. There's actually a lot of Thai workers in Israel. Some of them were actually taken and
Kidnapped.
killed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was stunned. Like there are Thai fruit pickers there.
Yeah, so effectively what
What?
happened in Israel was, after the Israelis took the land that was sort of became Israel, they needed laborers to sort of do it. And they didn't want to employ Arab laborers or Palestinian laborers because they wanted to keep them off the land. And so what effectively, they outsourced it, and Thai laborers became a major source of workers. And so they're all over Israel working in agricultural laborers. Even in Jordan, Thai workers are known for like being good gardeners and like being good with green things. So like they have a reputation for that in certain areas, I guess, because Thailand's so green. But yeah, so there's an extensive, long history between Thailand and various countries in the Middle East, even to the point where you can. I've never seen it myself, but reading books and stuff about Thailand, you can drive through the Thai countryside and see houses that are more Middle East style because, the person who lived there went and worked in the Middle East for 10 to 15 years, and when they came back and they wanted to build a house that was kind of Middle East kind of style. So it's a fascinating connection in terms of, people. And then obviously a bunch of people from the Middle East like to come to Thailand for tourism. So it's a very interesting sort of dynamic.
Nick, you're having such a blast and your life is so filled with, I'm sure that one day you have grandchildren, you have endless stories to tell them, like a modern day Marco Polo.
I wouldn't go so far, but thank you.
I think so. I mean, no one has gone and lived in such a exotic part of the world. So tell me, looking back, what's the best advice you've got that you can share with my listener or viewers?
So in terms of advice about life, I guess my advice would be to be patient. Patience is really key, forbearance, and being able to endure some difficult times, because difficult times will come. I think is very important. If you can, even if you're not having a great time, if you can bear it and get through it, some really good things can be in store. And so sort of having that sort of steadfastness and being willing to be uncomfortable for a little bit.
Yeah, I always associate being patient with controlling your temper because if your temper blows up, nothing good is going to come by.
Yeah. So
And
just being able to get
I
through
learned
it.
the hard way also because it's the ultimate goal to control your temper. And some people, like I, have very bad temper and I don't know how to control it for such a long time. And a lot of the opportunities were blown away from me because of what happened. But, that's how you learn
Yeah.
that one day you woke up, it's like, I have to control this. If I don't control this, nothing good is going to come my way. I have to be patient. I have to just, bear through the uncomfortableness until things are more calm and your minds are more clear. And I always associate that with patience. Last question, Nick, which is looking back now, what are you most proud of?
And I guess this is also sort of a piece of advice, is I'm very proud of how curious I've been about the world. So this actually, to tie it back to sort of West Virginia, I remember very distinctly during some trip to, I think it was Washington, D.C., when I was growing up in West Virginia. I remember I went, and one of the moms who was chaperoning the trip was saying, oh, you should travel all over the place. And I guess I was feeling homesick or something, but I loved West Virginia, and I told her, I'm never going anywhere. I'm gonna stay in West Virginia, and I don't need any place else. And there's a part of me that could have gone down that path, I suppose. but I guess curiosity won out in terms of being open to new experiences, being just always kind of having a sense of wonder about various sort of, whether it's the Middle East or moving to Thailand, or even just kind of sitting next to the Chao Phraya River and kind of being like, wow, this is where I'm at in history, and kind of having that sense of larger grandeur and enjoying it and taking the moment to enjoy that, because that's ultimately what I think a lot of life is about. I'm looking back, I'm proud that I didn't stay in West Virginia, that I have sort of gone to all of these different places, and that I've gotten a chance to meet people who had a different view, perhaps, than myself, and expand my kind of understanding of what the world is about.
I will talk about two notes. You are a modern day Marco Polo. I remember reading Marco Polo in the library when I was a kid, and in his deathbed, he told the people that he was dying. This is fictional, maybe. But when he was dying, he said, I only told you half the story. Somebody told me that before. Don't tell me how much you have. Tell me how much you've traveled, how much you've seen in real life. And I grew up, without mobile phones, without Facebook, without YouTube. So those days we actually had to go and see the pyramids or the Eiffel Tower. And I believe in the power of travel. And that's why my channel is to tell people to travel and to go and taste all these food, to go to all these places. And with that, thank you for talking to me, Nick. It was such an amazing journey. I finally have a Middle East expert to break down the stuff, because we are being bombarded by news. It's unbearable because we don't know what the history was and why these people are at each other. And I hope your message to tell people to care more, to understand more, rather than to just, this is my judgment, I hate these people, I hate that group of people. And I hope that transcends. Thank you for talking to me, Nick.
No, thanks for having me.
And how do you say thank you in Arabic?
Shukran. You say shukran jazilan, and then I say afwa.
Shukran, and I hope to meet you one day. We'll go out and we'll have beer, inshallah.
When you're in next time you're in Bangkok.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Be sure to check out my newsletter and sign up my newsletter so you can get the latest on the latest things that we talk about, and follow us. And also, I have a channel called Psychology, and you can follow my channel, food channel and travel channel there, which Nick said you have to travel and have to be curious to see the world. Thank you so much, Nick. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.